This is the rhythm of the
Freddie, thanks for being here today, man. I've been wanting to get us together at this table. I know we got a lot to talk about, so thank you for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a big blessing. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, something caught your eye. We have one of these little Jesuses here. You said you had a cool story. What's the cool story here?
I mean, I know that these are semi-new and people are just kind of leaving them everywhere.
Yeah.
We just recently came from a Brandon Lake concert up in
Yeah.
Phoenix.
Okay.
And they were everywhere. And I found one right next to my seat. And it was just so funny because you saw them all over the venue after that.
Yeah.
You know?
Like everywhere.
Everywhere.
I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago that had a very similar story, and they worked at a church, and this guy went out of his way at the church to hide them in places. So you'd be just doing like normal stuff. You're watering the plants, and you're like, wait a minute, is there a little Jesus behind? You know, so yeah, these stuff like just show. They came out of the blue. They used to be like nowhere. Now they're everywhere.
It's such a good idea, though. You know what I mean? Like it's so funny that just finding something little like that, it'll just put a smile on your face.
That's right.
Away.
That's right.
Yeah.
Kind of level sets. But as I was preparing for today, there was I don't always have like something like laid on my heart or like a scripture verse, but there was one that hit my mind as I was just thinking about the conversation I am anticipating that we're going to have, and it's James 1:22. And to paraphrase, I may not have it perfect, but it says, don't be just listeners of the word and so to deceive yourselves, but do what it says. And so every time I see you online or we run into each other, you're always found doing. So as we know, there's something there. And I think that as we talk today, we'll unpack some of that. But just there's a distinction between like saying you're going to get around to doing it and just finally doing it. So maybe to set this up, I know who you are. Not everybody knows who you are, but you're in a bunch of things. Some of this we overlap. I've seen you train some dogs. Obviously you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu and you're a coach. And so you probably know what I'm talking about when you see folks going from that save versus do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. And that's a beautiful quote to kind of start off this conversation because a lot of what I'm kind of experiencing is semi-recent, right? And I would say that the doing is the most important part, right? Whether it's in jiu-jitsu, dog training, or even just in your faith.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that right there is just something that a lot of people kind of get confused with, right? Like you can think about it all day. You can talk about it all day. You could even find yourself kind of taking small baby steps toward which is good.
Yeah.
But the moment you just go after and start doing it, it changes everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it sure does. And it's a journey, right?
It's a journey.
And the phrase I hear like in jiu-jitsu is like, just keep showing up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
there's no secret to it. I always tell people the hardest part about jiu-jitsu is getting in your car and just driving over there. Because once you're there with a bunch of like-minded people, you know what I mean? And everybody is there to train. Everybody's there to work hard. And then the environment's super friendly, right?
Yeah.
Like it's always like if you try to go to a library and not study or
Right.
not read. You know what I'm saying? That's like the best comparison.
That's
And
right.
all you got to do is just get there.
yeah, that's a beautiful image. Like get in your car and just drive there.
That's it.
And then I think about it spiritually. What might that look like to going from like saying I need to get back into the word or I need to, it's like for some, it might be like, I've not been to church in a while or I've never gone. Let's do what Freddie says, get in the car and drive to the one down the street.
Yeah.
It may not be the one you ultimately go. And even going back to jiu-jitsu, because it's an overlap, sometimes where you start your journey in jiu-jitsu is not the same place you find yourself now, right? But just show up to one.
Oh, yeah.
Start to figure it out. It'll show up, but you can't do anything if you don't get in that car and go.
Yeah, and that's perfect, man. You know, and the thing is too, especially nowadays, right? Like getting in your car and showing up, yeah, for sure.
Right.
But in your faith, something as simple as turning on your TV and going to the YouTube channel of a live church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just something like that. That's a great baby step, you know?
That's right.
And then that will get you into your car to start showing up, you know? Like,
yes. Yeah, I do know. And especially with today's technology, it's like there's not an excuse anymore, right? And many of the churches that I've attended or in the church I attend now, and I'm sure you could say the same, there's more than one option, right? So there's those that have the early rise and there's like an 8:00 start. And there's the one that, like I have 3 children and the one loves the 11 because he gets to sleep in. The other 2 want to do the 9:30, so it's like there's options, right? So it's like the excuses are running out.
Yeah. For sure.
But I'd love to take a step back with you. You know, what I don't know, we've never talked about this, is like your faith story. Were you always showing up and getting in the car and going to church? Were you always in the pew? Take me there.
Yeah, man. So that's a really great story because so in the Mexican culture, right?
Okay,
like
yeah.
it's kind of just thrown on you, right?
Okay.
Like
Tell me about that.
We're going to church on Sundays, right? This is what we believe in. Here's what we do, right? It's very traditional.
Okay.
Right? And as a kid, you don't really question it. So I think I grew up my whole life like always believing in Jesus and in God, right?
Yeah.
But I would say that it wasn't like a lot of people sometimes think that you find God in the back of a pew somewhere, right? Or somebody kind of inspires you. And sometimes that does happen, right? But for me, that wasn't the case. Like I said, I grew up always believing, but never really kind of believing on my own or thinking for myself in that sense, right? And it wasn't up until I went through a really bad situation and I found myself, in a dark room of an empty house, and that's when I just decided to give my life over to Jesus. It was one of those, I throw my hands up in the air type of situation. And I was just like, I can't do this by myself anymore. Like I need your help, you know? And that was a start.
Yeah.
That was a start for me. And that was just a couple years ago. I mean, I would say 3, maybe 4 years ago, And it was a very eye-opening experience. And like I said, I started off with, watching a little bit of church online, and then I bought this book that had like some scriptures that I can read on a day-to-day because picking up a Bible is hard.
I get you.
When you open it up, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And, but it is worth it. Right. But, and that's a little bit later. So like in the beginning,
yes.
Like I said, I started off with just kind of accepting the fact that what I was doing and the way I was living life at that time, it didn't work. So I decided to give my life over to God and Jesus. And I, started going to church regularly, and most of it was online church, but then I just started going back to the same church that I used to go to when I was a kid. And that felt good, but again, it was traditional and I just didn't really, there was something about it I just didn't really
resonate.
Exactly. Thank you. But then I started praying, and I started praying a lot. I started feeling a lot better. I started getting extremely into it. And then, and my take on it all was I was religious, but I always thought about it being very private. So like we were talking about earlier, right? Like kind of speaking out about it. And that was something I just also never really did either.
Yeah.
And the more I started praying, the more I started kind of learning and developing a relationship with Jesus, I realized that it's not something to be quiet about, Right. But again, I realized that a little bit later, like it's all baby steps. Like this journey in faith, you're not going to reach something enlightening overnight.
Right.
I mean, like I said, I'm going on like 4 years, and just last year I thought I was the biggest believer, and then you fast forward a year from now, and now I feel so close.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like I said, it was a journey. But I will say that praying is helpful. Praying is super powerful. Like the words of your tongue is extremely powerful. Even the thoughts that you think about yourself. I really think that it just helps you be a lot kinder to others, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the reason I say praying is so powerful is because, I prayed for a lot of, how would you want to say it? I prayed for a lot of like I wanted to be calmer, and then I realized that God is not just going to give you calmness. Right? He's going to give you situations where you have the opportunity to be calm.
Yeah.
To practice it. Exactly. Right. And I found myself in those situations, but because I started praying, I started acting on those situations differently.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I really got into that show, The Chosen.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I sure do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was a big game changer too, because it really brought the Bible to life.
Yes.
And I also got into this podcast called Bible in a Year. Have you heard of that before?
I have heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an amazing podcast. It goes through like each chapter of the Bible from the beginning to the end.
Awesome.
But the guy who's talking about it, he's very animated about it. So it kind of brings it really to life.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a little audiobook.
Sure. Yeah. Makes it modern. Man, I got to go back and cover some of the things you
Yeah, I
walked
talk
through.
all over the place,
No,
sorry.
I captured it from end to end.
Yeah.
But there's a few pieces I want to pull out. If not to throw your age out here, but like, how old are you now?
I'm 36. I'll be 37 in a couple months.
This is my theory. This is just me talking now. I too, in my mid 30s, had myself in the exact same moment you were in, where I'd lived a little bit of life. I'm married, got 3 children, and I'm starting to see that my way isn't working.
Oh yeah.
And what you talked about, like being in that room in that dark place, for me, I'm looking around going, I got cracks in the foundation. It's like, and how's that been working out for you? So my hypothesis is I'm seeing, that's why I ask the age sometimes, is a lot of these testimonies and these origin stories, as I like to call them, there's something about that mid 30s that says, it sets you up, in the middle of the night, you're like, And I think it's because you've lived a little life, and this is a broad paintbrush and this is not everyone's story, but it's like, you're as an adolescent, you're 18 and you kind of take that rebellious spirit and you're like, this is my way. And that's part of living. You got to sort it out. And then you start to see things that it's like you keep running into a wall and so that's just a little riff, nothing for you to necessarily respond to, but I'm like, there's like an overlap here to like this 30s thing.
I completely agree, man.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I completely agree. And like you said, I think you lived a little bit of life, and whether that goes good or bad, like in your 30s, it really seems like that's where your mind starts opening up to other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you see your parents getting older.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you see your friends like moving on with families, and like you're not hanging out with everybody the way you used to.
Yes.
Right? You find yourself with a lot of alone time.
Yeah.
And you just find yourself thinking, or in my case, you lived a certain way and you thought that was the correct way. But
you're not getting the outcome.
You end up in a position where you're just like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And you have nowhere to really turn.
That's right.
Yeah, you got family and stuff, but everybody has their own problems. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so the only place to turn to is God.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So it's like, for those that might be in their 30s listen to this, it's like, and you're feeling that, like you're not alone. There's a couple of us here right now talking about there is this kind of inflection point in our life in the 30s that called out. You said something else. That Bible is a heavy Bible, right? At least the one my grandma used to carry around. It was a big one. And we'll talk about church in a little bit. And you talk about this journey at church, just to kind of get to it, is a great place to start to unpack that book of wisdom, that blueprint for our life. And that's one of the reasons, aside from the community piece, which has got its own real healing and help and just be able to worship with others. The other awesome part of a church is they're able to take that book that can be confusing sometimes, and you'll be able to kind of break that down. But I really want to take a little bit more time with that prayer statement you talked about. And it seems like that's a really big part of your rigor every single day. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And when I started seeing, I'm not going to say benefits of prayer, but when I started seeing like your prayers being answered in a certain way, right? Like I said, he's not going to just give you something, right? If you want calmness, or if you want, to a certain situation to happen for you, he's not just going to give it to you. He's going to put you in situations where you have the opportunity to act differently.
Yes. Yes.
But one of the biggest things, and this was once I got settled again, right? Once I got my mind calm, once I was able to get control of myself, I started praying for a specific person. I started praying for a specific partner, and somebody that could get me closer to God, somebody that in herself was close with God too. And I was just looking for a completely different life and type of people that I used to hang out with. Not to say that everybody was bad that I was with, but I was just in a different chapter of my life, you know? And he answered my prayers. I mean, it was an extremely wild type of situation, but I ended up meeting this beautiful young woman who was so faith-based.
Yes.
And I've never really seen anything like that. I mean, she would wake up first thing in the morning, she was reading her Bible. You know what I mean? And
not scrolling on TikTok?
No, not scrolling on TikTok, man. You know what I mean? I mean, and even when she was on her phone, she was like taking notes and stuff like that, kind of looking up passages and stuff. And it was beautiful to see, you know, and the closer that we got, I just started realizing that, God blessed me with a woman like that.
Yes.
You have to be a man of God to earn that,
Yeah.
So I had to start leading us in faith, right? So instead of me watching her read the Bible, I went out and got one. you know? And then I asked her to teach me how to use it. So she actually did like all the tabs for me and everything,
Yeah.
right? Because the Bible
Yeah.
doesn't come, some of them do, but
I get,
she put all the tabs for, you know, like Luke, John, Matthew,
Right.
everything.
That's
so I
right.
could just kind of
Thumb
go
to it, get to it, and you needed to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And she told me, she was like, you know, the best way to do it is you have a good Bible verse that you love, go to that chapter
Yeah.
and start reading it, you know?
Yeah. Unpack it.
Unpack it. Right. Yeah. Get a highlighter. Start making some notes on it, you know?
Yes.
And that was extremely powerful, you
Yeah.
know? And it's funny because it's just the other day, I made a little note in my Bible and I was like, I've been reading this for a couple of years and I just now learned how to read it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like I just learned, like,
Yep.
chapter 5, verse 14 through 15 or something like that, right?
Yes.
And that's how you get your verses from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you talk about spiritual leadership, and I don't have the data set off at the top of my mind, but someone go ask Grok or ChatGPT and get the data. But it says that children, your offspring, have a statistical higher chance of staying in faith and in Scripture and staying in church if the husband, the father of the household, is leading that spiritually.
Yeah.
And it's a staggering different data set. Not diminishing the fact that, moms are out there getting kids to church and to getting in faith, but there is something about the man, the spiritual leader, really stepping into that gap.
Yeah.
So as I hear you talk about that, it's just back to that say versus do. It's like, wait a minute, I'm in this great relationship. Where am I contributing? Where am I leading that? So
Right.
It matters greatly.
Yeah. And like I said, I woke up one day and I saw her reading the Bible and I just said, if I want to lead this type of relationship and I want to earn this type of person,
Yes.
I need to step in there.
Yeah.
I need to do this.
Yeah.
Right. Reading the Bible's hard, right?
Yeah.
Waking up an extra hour before you got to go to work,
Right.
just so you can read the Bible before you work out. It's hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's just something that you got to do. You just got to try it. You
Yeah.
know?
Right.
And it's crazy too, because her and I were talking about it the other day, and this is something I didn't know, but she told me, I think it was yesterday. She said, that she was extremely grateful that we met, and she was praying that I would get closer to God and that I would start leading a little bit more in faith.
Yes.
And without ever telling me, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
But because of my mindset, because of jiu-jitsu, because of just what I naturally like to do, and I see something that I know that I need to do, I just start doing it. I picked up the Bible, I started reading, I started leading us in faith. And, through her help, I mean, she guided me through the whole way, and to the point where now we wake up extra early and we read the Bible on our own.
Yes.
We have a devotional thing that we kind of do every morning with each other. It's a nice little routine. And then we discuss what we just read with one another.
And it really just shapes the day. It really
does.
reminds us what's really important for that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get to those tasks. Yes, we have people that are dependent on us, but it really helps us get in that right frame. As you're telling your story, I'll share with you. So my wife and I, we got married when I was 21. She was 20 in 1999. We just celebrated 27 years.
Congratulations.
This past May 29th. And but what I would say earlier when I'm talking about cracks in the foundation, I was not that spiritual leader for the first part of our marriage, right? And so we got married. We knew we needed to grow up and get through college. And about 5 years into our marriage, we had our first son, and then our second son, and our daughter. And so we're living life, and we're young parents. And what's missing that whole time in that first part? God, prayer, Scripture. Similar to you, I grew up in the faith. I was in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday, right? So I was around the Word, but I wasn't it wasn't coming into my heart. I could tell you the books of the Bible in the order it went in, but I wasn't found doing it. And then I get married, and career's now on the mind, and that was always something I'd get around to doing, and the cracks started to show up. And in my wife's heart, I could tell that she needed me. She would say it at times, like she was looking to me to take that leadership step, to step in. And I just was found not doing up until, those moments where it's like in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., it's like, what's this all about? What are you doing, Lawrence? You got children, you've got a wife, you need us. And so I can vividly remember the night I approached my wife and I said, we got to get back into church. And just the tears flow. And it's like, we knew that was the right decision. And that was about 11 years ago. And since then, it's like, We've just been going, it's the journey, right? So we
Right.
went from making that commitment, the proverbial, we got in the car, we went to church. There was a Catholic church right down the street, and so that's where we went. Now we're no longer at the Catholic church. We're now someplace else at Church of the Nazarene, or Valley Church of the Nazarene is where we go now. But it's like in that journey, it's like it has to start somewhere, right? And it kind of reminds me of my jiu-jitsu comments. You start someplace, and like you said, look, you went back to your childhood church, and then eventually you're where you're at now. But you got to start somewhere, and then God will lead you, and you're listening to that call.
Yeah. And you got to start somewhere, but you got to be ready. You know what I mean? Like it's a complete lifestyle change, and that's what I've really noticed, right? Like it's not just understanding scripture. It's not just reading the Bible. Like if you truly, truly want to lead, it has to completely change your outlook, like on life.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to your point, we did the same thing. She wanted to go back to church. I wanted to go back to church. So we started going back to the one that we always went, which is 5 minutes down the road, right? It was a Catholic church. It was very traditional, and which is fine, and it wasn't up until she showed me Zion Church where I got a different taste of something else, right?
Yes.
And I'm not going to say modern. I'm not going to say, anything.
I understand.
Whatever church you want to go to, you know what I mean? But this church just made me feel something different.
Yeah.
You
found your home.
Yeah, you found your home, Yeah. And the people there were super friendly. Everybody was they came with notebooks. They came with their own Bible. I've never seen anything like that,
right. Yeah.
And so that's our church now. We go to Zion.
Well, that's why I brought that up. I had a feeling that when we may have been coming from an experience of the Catholic faith, and there's a piece of that tradition, not to do on a deep dive on this, but there's a tradition there that I love the history of it, the history, and there's a beauty there. But there was, for me personally, just kind of saying it, to you straight, it's like there was a piece of it that was not engaging for me and even for my children. And so what you're describing in your current church home and in my current church home is that level of engagement. And it's funny. It's like everyone's like, it's so great. I look down over left and right, and all my kids are filling in the notes when they're supposed to fill in the notes.
Oh,
and, it's like they're engaged. It's like engaged. That's important, right?
It's extremely important, And one of the things that she loved about it most was the music, right? And that's also something that's really changed for me too. Like, I cannot listen to regular music anymore. That is just it's something that. And she brought this up first, right? I like to say I'm the leader, but she is really just guiding me, throughout this whole thing. You know what I mean? I mean, she is the rib to my cage. You know what I mean?
That's how it's supposed to work.
And so, and when I say lifestyle, like the music that you listen to has a big impact.
Sure does.
Right? I saw this video the other day where this guy said, imagine if somebody talked to your wife and your daughter the way that the music was playing. Right. So, somebody's saying, hey, make the clap. Right.
Yeah.
And then imagine if someone said that to you. Right. Like, how would you react? You'd probably be throwing hands. Right. You would be defending your family. But yet we go in the car and we turn that song on and we crank it up and we're all bobbing our heads and having a good time. Like,
and it's getting into your mind.
It's getting into your mind. You don't even know it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So the Christian music has really come up too. Like,
I'm with you. Yes.
We went to Brandon Lake. It was the most amazing concert. And we can get into that right now because I would love to.
Go there.
But that concert, if you guys get a chance, go see Brandon Lake because it was not a concert. It was 15,
a worship.
It was a worship seminar with 15,000 people.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it is at Zion, obviously on a way smaller scale. But like when the music is playing, people have their hands up.
Yeah.
Like, and if you've ever gone to a church and like put your hands to the sky, how vulnerable you feel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it just feels right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what brings me back to the lifestyle. Like, there's a lot of new things kind of happening for me and has happened for me in the past couple of years where like, I can't even listen to regular music. I can listen to country, country, you know what I mean, for the most part.
That's right.
But like a lot of like the rap, the common music that people kind of, still bob their heads to. Yeah, I can't do it,
Let's get stuck on this music thing. I'm a big music fan, and music has always been a therapy for me, to include secular music, and if I wanted to get motivated about something, and But to your exact point, the content that goes into our mind consciously and subconsciously is going in, and it's feeding our mind and it's softening or hardening our hearts.
Yeah.
And then we haven't even brought in the children aspect of this, where it starts to normalize content that should absolutely not be normalized.
100%.
Right? I'm sure we've all seen the meme where you see like a Nicki Minaj like love song, which is not a love song compared to like an actual love song. It's
Right,
that is just straight up filth and trash.
Yeah.
Not to pick on her, but it's like she ain't alone in that. But it's like that is just dirty words. It's disrespectful to most of it's disrespectful to women.
Yeah.
Right. I have a daughter. I don't want a man talking about her that way.
Right.
I don't want someone dating her that way. All the above. It's like, and so yeah, you're right about getting fixated on that. Similarly enough, there is an overlap here where worship music or Christian music or whatever, however you want to phrase it, wasn't like always on my playlist. But my mind is always thinking, it's always restless. And so it reminds me of like King David, in scripture, he talked about like after like a tough day, I think as the story goes, there was a harp player that would sing him song and hymn.
Oh, yeah.
And it would soothe his soul. Yeah. And that's what worship music does for me.
Oh my God.
Is it just calms the busyness in my head. It's another form of prayer in some sense for me.
And that's the best way to put it. It's another form of prayer. You know what I mean? And this is what we listen to when we start getting ready in the morning. I mean, we start our day. But we wake up and we take the dogs for a walk. Yeah. We don't have any music. We barely even talk. We're just enjoying the sunset in the desert, walking for like 30 minutes. You know what I mean?
We must be reading from the same notebook because my wife will get up a little bit before me and I can hear she's got her little set list. She starts, worship music and it kind of wakes. It's kind of really cool to wake up. She's in the kitchen. She's kind of getting the day started. I'm getting up a cup of coffee and it just sets the mood. And it not only sets the mood, but it sets the right mood.
That's the best way to put it. Because you can listen to any music and you can get pumped up and kind of start your day that way. But and this is why I don't try to push religion or push what I'm seeing and how I'm feeling on others. Because just to your point, right? Like if you're in your mid 30s, late 30s, early 30s, and if you're extremely fortunate enough to even be in your 20s and be in this position where you're trying to give your life over to Jesus, you're extremely blessed, right? Because everything is going to happen on your own time. Yeah. It's all going to happen on your own time.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is because the moment you're actually ready to give your life, you're going to start seeing music differently. You're going to start seeing your morning routines differently.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
you're going to start seeing your relationships differently.
You're going to see your relationship differently.
You're going to start talking to people. The difference is going to show up everywhere in all the right ways.
Exactly. And how you handle situations. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you're going to start recognizing things in your partner where they need help with. Yes. Right. And vice versa, where you need help with.
Yeah. For me, that change has been from being selfish to selfless. Right. And I can think about my relationship with my wife, and whereas I had been on this faith journey, it's where it's like, you're doing that for you. Are you doing that for your wife? And then as a father, it's like the words coming out of your mouth, the instruction that I'm giving him, the guidance that I'm giving him, what's it serving? And is it serving something selfish? Is it trying to make us look like the coolest, house on the block? It's like, what's it serving?
Right.
Or are you doing what Scripture says? And if you look at what Jesus did for us, he died on the cross, not to make extra points, right? It was to die for our sins. And that's that blueprint, man. That's the changes I've been seeing.
Yeah. And that's perfect, man. I mean, he left the 99 sheep to go find the one stray. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And I know we all have our own story, and we all have our own story with him, but I was that one sheep. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then, but once he brings you back and you see everything for what it is, you see the way that you handle situations, you see your family, your woman differently. Yeah. Even when they hurt you, right? Or you have arguments, you don't handle it the same way. Right. Forgiveness is the ultimate sign of giving your life to God.
Yeah.
When somebody hurts you, are you able to forgive them?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I was just talking to someone yesterday about this. I'll add another F word to this. Easy here. Forgive and forget. That's one thing that Jesus can do that I don't think we as humans can forget. Oh yeah. So there's the forgive part, right? Yeah. But if it was something that really, maybe in a relationship, like we forgave and like, wait a minute, we're talking about this 5 years later. I thought we were supposed to forgive and forget. But so it's a challenge, right?
It is.
So it's like, but to your point, it's like forgiveness it's just easy. I found myself not wanting to be right. I want to be in a relationship.
Right.
And that relationship piece, again, this journey I've been on in my spiritual journey, it's like, what's the biggest win for me? It's that capital R word, relationship. Like all my relationships, of course, with my immediate family, just in the world, people I don't know. My impulse was to like fight back, push back, get into an argument. It's like, no, we're going to reframe that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think it's built into our DNA, man. And however you grew up, right? Like my parents are very old school. You know what I mean? So it was very, you know, like work as hard as you can for pretty much your whole life, have a savings account, everything like that. And, you know, they didn't have time to kind of stop and reflect on some of these things, I don't think, right? Or have the technology in front of you to just Google something, right? To try to make sense of it. But yeah, I mean, the way that you handle things, and it's all changed, you know? And like I said, the music that you listen to changes, but then your actions, right? Like I used to party on Saturday nights and then I would go to church on Sunday in my teens, right?
Sure.
And yeah, okay, you get points for going to church, but and this is why I say wherever you're at in life, it's exactly where you're supposed to be. Because now, I mean, we don't party, you know, and if we do, we'll have a good time. But like, you know, I can't go to the club. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be home at 10 p.m. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, and because I want to be able to get up early and I want to be able to read my Bible and pray. Right. You know, or if we got to go to church on Sunday. Yeah. And it's just a complete lifestyle change, man. You know, like the music you listen to, the way that you act with other people, the things that you do for fun on the weekends and whatnot, right? And then you know what you do on the daily. Yeah. Like it all revolves around, you know, being centered around Christ. And that's right. And that's what I mean by everything happens on its own time, whatever age you're in.
That's right. And you keep coming back to those two core things about when we say, well, what does it mean to center around Christ? Prayer and his word. Yeah. Prayer and his word. Rinse, repeat. This prayer piece, like even just you talking about your discipline in that. My wife and I, every time we, you know, get into a frustration, which, gosh, last week, right? Yeah. We always challenge each other, or not challenge each other, but ask ourselves, so have you been praying about that? It's like, no. Oh, that's a good one. No, I haven't been praying about that. Yeah. It's like, well, that would be a good place to start, right? It's just, there's just this, at least for me, and especially I notice this with athletes or those can-doers or those competitiveness, and I'm sure our peer group and network has got a lot in that network. You want to, there is merit to going out and because we could get into a discussion like what's proper prayer, and you know, it's like, you know, just asking for a wish list and a genie in the bottle. That's not what we're talking about, right? So, well, you still have to show up. You still need to be found doing your part. But the cautionary advice I give those kind of pieces is like, there's a surrender piece to God. There's a part that says if you're doing your part, the fret, the worry, the concern, that's what we're praying to God for. Again, like, God, I trust you on this, and just having that conversation with him. Yeah. He's there and he's listening. He's right there in your heart.
Yeah, and you just gotta let him in. You gotta let him in. And it's funny you say that. And again, with the whole prayer part, I mean, yeah, I prayed for a significant other that's gonna get me closer to God. And you know, before I realized how much of that he answered my prayers, I incorporated prayer into jiu-jitsu. You know, almost every time before I went to practice, I said a little prayer like, hey, just allow me to walk out the same way I walked in. Right? I just don't want to get hurt. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to hurt anybody else either. And, you know, I started having these really intense practices that kind of, I just saw myself like leveling up a little bit. And I think it was last year. Last year ended up being number 1 in the state. And that was the first year out of 15 years of doing this where I prayed before every single match that I had throughout that year. Yeah. You know? And what's extremely wild about that is it took me to Portugal. You know, it took me to Portugal where I was number 1 in the state. I happened to win a raffle. I won a raffle where they drew my name out of like this digital hat. And, and you know, so I ended up getting a ticket to Portugal to go compete at the IBJJF European Championships. Yeah.
Tell me about how was that?
You know, it was, oh man, it was amazing. It was so amazing. You know, my girlfriend got to come with me, my mom, my tia, you know, we got to make a week trip out of it.
Oh, awesome.
And, Portugal, I highly recommend if anybody can go. Okay. You know what I mean? Like it was so great that we're probably going to expense this and go again this year just to go experience it again. The food, the culture. I mean, the most expensive part was probably like the hotel and the
Sure.
flight. You know what I'm saying?
To get there.
Yeah. But once you get there, like your dollar goes so far when it comes to like food and everything, you know?
Yeah, of
and then the
course.
quality of food.
Yeah.
And
Good food for the right price.
Oh yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, exactly. and we picked up a really healthy habit, man. Like we noticed that everything down there was in glass. There was hardly anything in
Plastics.
plastic. Yeah, man, nothing. And we had to ask them about it, and they all said the same thing. Like, dude, plastic is so bad for you. It's so
It
bad
is.
for the environment. It ends up in the ocean. You know
And
what I
our
mean?
bodies.
And our bodies. You
In
know,
'em.
and in them, yeah. And you know, so we were somewhat incorporating glass for the most part in the house.
Right.
But when we came back, we strictly threw out everything that was not, you know what I mean? Even to the point where like our water bottles now are either
Glass.
like glass or like those Yeti containers, you know, those are still good too. But I just broke my glass bottle yesterday, so I guess that's kind of the downfall. But you know, it's just a whole lifestyle change, man.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this: I've never felt this wholesome and this happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like no matter what comes my way, I know that there is a reason behind it, and I know that I can handle it.
Right. Perhaps, you know, as a Christian, you know, we're told not to worry, right? And so kind of thinking about this is my opinion. It's like, so you come into a contest, a competition, right? And it's like there's a level of contentment. And as a consequence, a good thing of that contentment, it frees the mind. So perhaps you come into the, you know, yes, you want to be the one that takes the podium, the top spot, right? But there's also contentment saying, look, if it's not meant to be this time around, you're looking for the other values. And so, yeah, I've heard us coach that, and that's been coached. It's like, you know, it's not all about the win, but just being able to give it to God, so to use the phrase, and actually mean that and live that kind of life. It brings a different level of peace.
And that's a great point. And because before competitions, I've been doing it for 15 years, and I still get nervous, right?
Of course.
That's never going to go away.
Good.
But what's really that means you want it.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But what's really wild, man, is like you said, there was a newfound sense of peace that I had before every match, you know, and it typically happened right after I prayed for either my safety or the safety of my opponent.
That's right.
Or just for me to even, the biggest thing that I prayed about was, I just want to do what I know I can do, right?
Yeah.
Please don't allow me to freeze. Please bless me with the power to be able to perform the way that I know that I can, the way that I do in practice. Please allow those skills to come into this moment.
Yeah.
You know? And with that brought a big sense of peace, because I was okay if I lost.
Right.
You know what I mean? I got extremely, I'm not going to say lucky, because I did put in the work, but I did. But I got extremely lucky with all of my matches. And, you know, even this past Saturday, right? I just got done competing in the Last Warrior, you know, and that's an amazing local tournament. So if you guys ever get a chance, go check that out.
I like the venue. Just it kind of has it's not your typical one, right? Where you've got like a stage up front. You got like the whole.
They make you feel really special. You know what I mean?
It's like, get your names behind you.
Yeah. It's really amazing, man. And funny story with that is the guy that I went up against. You know, he's been in the game, I would say, a little bit longer than myself, because when I was up and coming as a blue belt, I would show up early to the state championship so I could watch this guy compete.
To watch him.
Yeah. He was a brown, maybe black at the time, and then when I was purple, he was for sure black. But I watched him for years, and I talked to him. He's a super nice guy. Yeah. And, you know, I was blessed enough to be able to have a match with him years later, and just to even think that I'm on this dude's level.
Right, on the same stage with him.
It's amazing, you know?
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, the match didn't go my way. I ended up getting caught. But what was really eye-opening about it was I wasn't as down on myself about losing the way that I used to be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think it's just because, again, I had peace and comfort in knowing that he was favored that night.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and you're also a coach. And I know you know this, but just the perspective is you've got people watching you. And they're watching you as a coach. How are you going to handle adversity?
Exactly.
How are you going to handle a loss? How are you going to handle a win? And not that I'm trying to make a silver lining out of it, but there are silver linings in this. It's like they get to watch their coach who they look up to, they take advice from. This is how Freddie took the loss. This is how Freddie took that. And that's a teaching moment. They may never come back and even tell you that, but you're being watched. And just as a father, I'm being watched. And some of my moments where I've had some of the biggest connection with my children has been when I didn't get that job I wanted, or when I didn't get that promotion, or when they saw dad go through a tough time.
Yeah.
and I'm expecting them to like come in and like rah 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 after the big win. I'll get that, but it's like
Yeah.
sometimes it's in that adversity, and that's a story that's found over and over and over again in Scripture.
Yeah.
Is when you look at Scripture, it's like they really give a blueprint on how to deal with this thing called life.
Yeah.
Life's not easy, is it? Right? I don't know about you, but it's like there's a challenge every single day,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
it
yeah.
teaches us how to come into that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest challenge for a lot of it, like you said, is mentally, right? So
Yes.
like where's your mentality at right now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And by putting your focus and your faith and any extra space that you have mentally into Jesus, and it just brings a sense of peace.
Yes.
You know? And just to know that everything happens for a reason. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like it took 15 years for me to have the greatest year of my life in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you could ask like, why didn't this happen before, right? But
You're right.
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Right.
matter why it didn't happen before. It's
Yeah.
happening now. Enjoy it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You talk about time. We've talked about time, a bit in this conversation, and there's also God's timing, right?
Yeah.
And there's like, here's when Lawrence wants it to get done.
Yes.
Here's when I want it to have happen. And then in prayer, I'm like, what's going on? Like, why it's not happening? And so
Yeah.
it's even caused me to revisit how I pray. It's like, yeah, I would really love if this could happen,
Mhm.
but it's caused me to stop asking for the timing. It's going to happen when it's going to happen.
Yes.
Right? That might be on my watch, but it's really is always on God's watch.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
on His time, and it's going to come together when it's going to come together. There was someone close to us that we've been really wanting to have him join us at church, and it's like, there was an opportunity for that to happen several weeks ago, and it didn't happen, and then folks were bummed out about him, like, and then he was able to join us, and it was perfect timing. Like the message that was being spoken was like tailored for that day and
Yeah.
for that event. It's like, that's God's time.
Well, and that's a great point because yes, it's God's time. But the further you dive into it, you're gonna realize that, and here's a hard pill to swallow,
Yeah.
is it might not never happen. You know?
Mhm.
It might not never happen, but that is just because he has something greater planned for you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and like you said, this isn't a lamp with a genie that's going to come out. It's going to grant you 3 wishes,
Right.
right?
Right.
You can pray for something as hard as you want.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And of course, he most likely he wants you to have that. He wants you
Yeah.
to be happy. You know what I
Right.
mean? But he already has a plan
Right.
set out for you.
That's right.
And if that's in his plan for you, it's going to happen. And
That's right.
it's going to happen on his time.
That's
But
right.
if it's not in his plan for you, you got to be able to have the faith to be able to understand that and
Yes.
understand that there's something better coming
Yeah.
along.
That's right. And with faith really being a core piece of my life, it's like even in corporate America, like say there's a promotion, there's a job post that you want to get after.
Mhm.
It's like as long as you've shown up, you've done the work, you've put in the time,
Yeah.
you've demonstrated it through your prior performance, sitting there and fretting like, is it going to be me? Is it going to be him? What's going to happen there is going to happen there. And
Right.
it goes back to this content piece. It's, we could use the jujitsu example of like win or loss, but it's like that contentment is deserved is if you've put in the work and you've given it to God.
Yeah.
That for me
exactly.
is surrender.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just the fact to know that, in my opinion, that whatever is going to happen has already happened.
Mm.
You know, you got to go, you got to show up, you got to do the best you can, and you got to accept the outcome, whatever that outcome is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I'm going to ask you a question that it's coming just from me and you. And it's like, this is just your perspective on it. So you and I, as we're talking, we've convinced each other, we're already living that life.
Mhm.
What is your perspective on guys our age to be 20, to be 50? Why are they ignoring this? What's your take on that? Why would they be dismissive to this cool thing we're talking about? What's that all about, man?
Oh man, it could be a couple factors. It could be they haven't gone through any hardship that's brought them to their knees, right? It could be their environment. Unfortunately enough, it could even be their spouse. If you're even thinking about it, if you're thinking about taking the leap whatsoever, if you want to if you're curious about it, right? You have the opportunity to. There's several churches in town. Just pick one every Sunday and go see the environment, go see the culture, right?
Yeah.
Or something as easy as get in your car, drive into jiu-jitsu, go on Amazon, buy a Bible.
Yeah.
Start there.
Right.
Right. That Bible comes in, open up a page. Right.
Yeah.
And if you're more of a listening type of person,
Mm-hmm.
Bible in a Year podcast.
Yeah. That's right.
Start with that. It'll bring it to life for you. I really think if you haven't gotten brought to your knees by life already, or maybe you have and
Yeah.
you're just choosing to do it on your own,
Right.
okay. If you want some help and if you want
Yeah.
to feel a sense of peace and joy that
Yeah.
you're not getting by doing things on your own,
Yep.
then I would suggest giving it over to Jesus. He's going to help you, you
Yeah.
know, and it might not be right away, but he's
Right.
going to help you.
Yeah. Love that. When you talk about getting a Bible and starting someplace, sometimes that is an overwhelming book, and it says, "Oh gosh, which book do I start with? Which one I do?" The advice I sometimes give there, and even for myself, it's like if I'm not sure what I want to read today, I love going to Proverbs.
Yeah.
It's a great, for someone that's ever opened up a Bible before, or you're unsure of like where to start. You might even have your favorite as all good, man. It happens. But, one of my favorites is it's just ancient wisdom that you read these, just pick a chapter and just make a point to maybe read a chapter, a day for a month. And then if I'm not mistaken, I think there's about 31 chapters in Proverbs. So there's your month right there. But
There
it's
it is,
like,
yeah.
just open it up. It's just rich in wisdom.
Yeah, and the more you start reading the Bible, you okay, take out God from the Bible, take out Jesus from the Bible.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of stories of people who are experiencing life
Yes.
who continuously mess up.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That sounds
Their
familiar.
life is not perfect at all. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's just it's a bunch of people who are just going through it,
Mm-hmm.
and they, even though they mess up, there's something that keeps pulling them back, right?
Yeah.
There's some higher power that keeps
Yeah.
pulling them back and just kind of trying to guide them in a certain direction,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And some listen a lot more than others,
Yeah.
and it's a great correlation to us,
Yeah.
because we're human. God gave us free will,
Sure
so
did.
we could act how we want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But once you get in it, there's no getting out.
No,
You
it's
know,
a
and
bottomless pit.
and that's the beauty of
yeah.
it, But you got to be ready,
Yeah.
because you're gonna start maybe not hanging out with certain people. You're gonna not start listening to certain things.
Mhm.
It's gonna change things a lot. People's perspectives of you might be a little strange, but when you have that peace in your heart, and like I said, if you're fortunate enough to have a partner who's going through that journey with you,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter, because you go home and you close those doors. It's
Yeah.
just you and your partner and your family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm inclined to say this because you've talked about the partner a couple of times. So if someone's in a relationship and you're not compatible spiritually
Mhm.
with that other person, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say, stop what you're doing in that relationship and get serious about that, because there's going to come a point in that relationship where you're going to run into some adversity.
Mhm.
And that's not when, for the first time in that relationship, you want to sort out how are you going to solve that. I know how all those stories always end if you end up getting in that crossroads deep into a relationship where somebody wants to go this way with it or no spiritual with it. That just keeps showing up and showing up. So if you're in a relationship, if you're listening to this right now and you're in a relationship where that's not been discussed, if that's not been sorted out, or you're getting ready to get into a relationship, or you're young and you're getting ready to get into dating, it's like, don't skip that, because
Oh, yeah.
if you don't have God or Christ at the center, God, or one of the same here, it's like if you don't have Him in the center of your life,
Yeah.
that's a recipe for disaster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I mean, if you don't have him in the center of your guys' relationship,
Yep.
then you guys are the center of your relationship.
Right.
And
Oops.
and give it 5 years when you start changing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this person doesn't talk to me the way they used to, or
Right.
there's something going on here,
Right.
right? Like there's a disagreement that
Yeah.
just never ends.
Right.
And I've been guilty of that, and like I said, once you put Jesus at the forefront of it all,
Yeah.
when those problems come, you guys can just pray on it together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. And if you are in a relationship with somebody who doesn't want to take that spiritual journey with you, pray on it.
Right.
But don't let it stop you. I
Right.
would say start doing it on your own.
Yes.
Your partner will see that just
Yeah.
the same way.
Just like yours. That's right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I thought by listening to the podcast, by doing Bible verses and whatnot, and going to church,
Right.
randomly, but listening to the Sunday
Right.
service. It's Elevation Church, by the way. I don't know if
Okay.
you heard about that.
Yep.
Really amazing.
Yes.
I thought that was great. I thought
Yeah.
that was enough. I wasn't partying, but I was still listening to the
Right.
same music. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And I wasn't reading the Bible. I was praying, but not so much with intent. Just kind
Right.
of like doing some generic type of prayers and whatnot, asking for stuff and making sure that my family was healthy.
Right.
And it wasn't up until Christy, when I saw the way that she was, and it forced me to go from this part what that I thought that I was faithful to
Right.
like the next level,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you want to fast forward 3 years later.
Right.
I mean, I'm at a whole new level
Yeah.
right now.
That's right. That's right. The key thing I'm saying is don't ignore it in the relationship.
Don't
Don't
ignore it.
walk from the relationship. Now,
Yes.
if that ends up having to be something that's a difficult decision you have to make,
Yeah.
understood. But don't ignore it.
Yeah.
Right. And just like in your own story, it's like she was praying for you to see that journey.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
then look at you right now. Right. It's like that matters. And in my own reflections, like my wife was, she didn't walk away from me. She desired in her heart. She knew this is what it needed to be. It's like, so listen to that in your relationship.
Yeah.
Right. If your wife or your girlfriend or inverse is nudging you and saying, heed the call,
Mhm.
listen to that. Just don't ignore it. Only great things are going to happen. I'm here to tell you, I don't even going out on a limb. Only great things will happen if you give your life to him.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I mean, like I said, the people that you're hanging around with, even some of your family, they might think you're a little bit odd at first, but you're going to start developing this energy that's going to start coming out of you, and people are going to start wondering, like, what is it?
Right.
Like what is it
Yeah.
about this prayer? Why are
Yeah.
you so confident? Why are you so calm? Like,
Right.
and all of that is just based on your faith, I think. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Like your hard work. And if you're a hard worker, and if you can translate that hard work with faith,
Yes.
I mean, Matt, you are so far ahead of the game.
That's right.
You know?
100%. Our pastor was just talking about there's kind of like two kind of people at a funeral, right? Those that have the hope and those that do not.
Yeah.
And of those two choices, it just hurts your heart to see someone in a place where they don't have that hope.
Yeah.
They're just in despair. And it's like, that's a non-starter. It's like, where do you go with that? There is no place to go with that. But to be able to put your faith, and this other thing, I've also seen it this way. If there was 1,000 steps between myself and Jesus, he's going to take the 999 of those steps.
Oh yeah.
All you have to do is just take that. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're just saying, take that one step. Start by going, instead of thinking about I'm going to get in the car to go to jiu-jitsu, start by just waking up and getting in the car.
Yeah.
I remember a coach talking about this. I came across one of these like 60-second clips where somebody just was really having a hard time getting to the gym, and he really had to break that down into micro pieces. Step one, just wake up and get in your car and set in your car at the house.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, it's like, just drive to the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then come home. I'm not asking you for anything else, right? Just that journey you keep talking back to. It's those little, be great. Yes, we know stories where there's these transformative moments where you're living a life of sin and the very next day you're doing, you're the Superman of Christianity.
Yeah.
Those are great stories.
For sure.
Right? But most of these, it's those steps.
Mm-hmm.
It's just show up. As we started this conversation, it's like, just don't listen to this advice. Listen to this advice. Take a step today.
Yeah.
Take a step right after this podcast, whatever that might be for you. For some, you're already going to church, okay? Get involved in your community. Start doing a devotional with your significant other or your child, your family. Take that next step in the journey. It will never, ever let you down.
And that could be one of the hardest parts, man, is seeing the signs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you're gonna take that one step, and it could be a couple of weeks, a couple of months before you see the next sign. Just keep taking that next step, even if it's the same step. Just keep moving forward in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, where I'm at now.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me 4 years ago, I would have said, "Oh no, yeah, I'm super religious. I believe, I do all this, I do all that." But where I'm at today is just it's been 60,000 steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and for those who are born again overnight and they're, they get it all overnight. Like that's fantastic. That did not work for me at all.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It took me a long time to get to here, but I'm so excited to see where it takes me next, because I know that I'm not done.
No.
I know that I'm not done. I have, just like I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah.
I teach every Tuesday.
Right.
I lost this past weekend. I was in class this morning with my coach reviewing the tape, and we were working on things that I messed up on.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did we work on it, but then we just drilled it for the remainder of the hour.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I am a student my whole life. It
Yes.
doesn't matter what color belt is wrapped around my waist. It doesn't matter how far in faith I think that I am.
Right.
I am always a student. And,
Yes.
and that is something, if you don't already know that, it needs to be learned.
Yes.
Because that's going to correlate to your faith and your path and your
Right.
walk with Jesus.
Right.
You know, you're going to get to a point where you're like, okay, well, I'm going to church. You know, I stopped drinking. I stopped partying. You know, I that's enough. I mean,
Yes.
No, dude, trust me.
No, that's just the beginning.
It's the beginning, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you have no
Yeah.
idea where this is going
Right.
to go. Like, open your eyes, try to see the signs, and then keep taking those steps.
Yeah.
You know?
As you're talking about that, what a beautiful coaching lesson. I think about Christianity, and I'm taking this from Dr. Peterson, where he talks about the significance of the cross. And one of the things about the Christian faith is it asks you to look to the cross. So as you're telling the story about where you went back to film, you're going back to that moment of adversity where you didn't get the win, and you're studying that. And so for me, it's like the cross. And when we look to the cross, we're looking at that pain and that suffering to say, okay, that's the portal to greatness. It's like what baptism is, right? There's a death of old self. It's a death. So this journey that we're on, it's like, we get baptized once, but what you're going to find out is you're going to continue to give away those old things, those old vices, those things that are not keeping us in perfect unity with Him, in perfect unity with our significant others, our relationships. And so you're always dying to yourself over and over and over. In this case, you're just going back and watching film. You're going back and watching that film and saying, okay, how do I die to that? Because the next time I'm in this situation and I'm going to get put in this position, I'm not going to have however you got submitted.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and that's a great point. And that brings me to the next part, which is it doesn't matter how hard that I prayed for the win or how hard that I prayed for it, right? It wasn't my night, and that's okay.
Yes.
But, you know, I'm going to show up on Monday and I'm going to keep working. You know what I mean? And don't let this fool you, right? Like, okay, I went on this long spiritual journey. I am where I am.
Yes.
But I'm human. I still mess up. I still get angry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
I sometimes I catch myself listening to that song.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm just like, oh man, you know, you're gonna fall, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I'm never gonna fall as far as I've fallen before.
That's right.
You know what
Momentum.
I mean?
It's
Exactly.
momentum in the right direction. You're right. And the key word is in what you were talking about is catching yourself. Because there was a period of my life where I'm not even interested in catching myself. I don't even know I should be catching myself.
Yeah.
So just the mere fact that we recognize we're human, we're going to stumble. Yep. It's like just being aware of that idea, that's a great step in the right direction. That's momentum in the right direction. The fact that you're catching yourself today, yesterday, I've caught myself 17 times just waking up, right? It's like, okay, got to do that over, got to say sorry for that, got to ask for that forgiveness. It's catching yourself and then doing something about it, right?
Right.
And that's also key too. It's like catch yourself and go, okay, how do I course correct?
Right. Yeah. And like I said, you know, you're going to mess up, but don't let that mess up deter you because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You know, I mean, I remember kind of being at the beginning of it and just, you know, getting into it and, you know, before my girlfriend showed up, and I remember still kind of, you know, going for that bottle, right? Or going to the dispensary and getting some more numbness medication. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And it just got to a point where like, okay, like I was still praying, I was still doing everything I was doing. I felt spiritually awakened, but then I still found myself messing up, and there was a point in time where I was like, well, man, if I continue to do this, like, why am I going to continue to do this?
Right.
You know?
Right.
But the point is, this is your journey, you know?
Yeah.
And I started praying on this. I started praying on the ability to let this go.
Yeah.
Let the numbing medications go so I could focus more over here.
Right.
And it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
You know, it happened over time. And then a couple months went by and I'm like, oh man, I'm doing really great. And then I fall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you come back and you just keep coming back and you come back harder. Same thing. Like I lost this match. Okay, great. Well, I'm looking at the film and I'm never going to get put in that position again.
That's right.
Because I just drilled on how to work on how to not get there again. And now my level has grown.
Yeah.
And that's where you get to a certain point, you know?
Yeah. You called that right about the numbness. It just turns it off temporarily.
That's it, man.
And then once
Yeah.
it's off, it's like knock, knock, knock.
Yeah.
I've not gone anywhere.
Feels
You
good
still
in the moment.
Yeah.
Feels
yeah.
really good in the moment.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just
and
false sense of security.
that's it. That's a great way to put it. False sense of security, you know?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, right? Like, you know, having a drink every once in a while, I'm
Sure.
not against any of that stuff. I don't
Yeah.
judge anybody for
I
any of
understand.
it. You know what I'm saying? For me, this is just
Sure.
for me. This is your own journey. So for me, I realized that it was just a numbness for me.
That's
that
right.
I just,
You
know,
called it right.
I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know? And maybe I get to a point where it's not a numbness for me and it's just an enjoyable factor
Sure.
every once in a while.
Yeah.
But for now,
Yeah.
can't.
Well, I think the distinction you're making is when the numbness is the solution or the
Exactly.
perceived solution.
Yes.
Right. And there's a distinction between what you're calling it correctly, numbness versus taking a moment to just relax for the day. That there's a distinction there,
Mhm.
right? But it's when those I think you called it right. It's like that when that becomes the perceived solution,
Right.
when that wears off, when that fades, whatever is gripping our attention, whenever that goes away and you're alone in your room in the dark,
Mm-hmm.
do you have the solution then?
Right.
And you already heard what we've been talking about as the solution for that. One last thing, and as we wrap up today, is thank you for your voice.
Yeah, I
Right,
appreciate
I
it.
think that's something as I look back in the last 20 years has been lacking. I think there's the quote is something like, "Evil things happen because good men do nothing."
Yeah.
And I think for us in our society here in this this United States culture, my criticism is, and I'm one of those guys, so maybe I'm just criticizing myself, is there was times where I stayed silent. I did not use my voice.
Mhm.
I wasn't behind this microphone. Should I even be doing this? Who knows, right? But it's just been led on my heart to say, put this microphone in front of my mouth, hang out with somebody like yourself, and talk about it, right? And so that voice, I think, I don't want to overlook that. So I just want to thank you for your voice today, and for speaking up for Jesus and for a way forward. There are people watching and there are people listening.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And you know, and I don't know if you noticed, but there is a big shift going on right now,
Sure
right?
is.
There's a huge spiritual
I see it.
warfare going on out there.
I see it.
And I can really see like the shift kind of moving into the favor of God, right?
I see it.
We went to church on Sunday, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And this is something I'd never seen before in my life, where the church had a stage, they had the music going on, but it had middle school, high school kids, and they were all at the stage just with
Yeah.
their hands in the sky,
Yeah.
singing the songs. And it was it's really amazing to see that, along with like a bunch of Christian artists finally hitting the top 100. I
Yeah.
don't know if you knew that,
Yeah.
but they hit the top 100 first time ever.
Yes.
I mean, the music itself is changing the game.
Yeah.
There's something going on out there.
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it in this town. I'm seeing it nationally.
Yeah.
And
Even in jiu-jitsu. I mean, there's a
Yes.
there's a company, Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're starting to incorporate this everywhere. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like right now, if you're even a little bit curious about it, right now is the best time.
Strike where
You
the
know?
iron's
Yeah,
hot.
exactly. Go ask somebody. Ask somebody that you know is somewhat spiritual or in it, right? How to get started.
Yeah.
And if not, like I said, jump in the car, order the Bible. You know?
Yeah, that's
Just
right.
start there.
Yep. And another good portal for, I think, as folks kind of read the room and really, how can I participate? Obviously you're going to hear me and you talk about start praying, get into the word, go to church. We're coming out of, people are mean-spirited, and a lot of that's trolling and a lot of it's behind the scenes. So another big change you can make in your life is stop walking by moments where people are really suffering. Make it a point to say, like, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to go bless somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking monetarily. And if that's it, that's it. It's like even something as simple as like, take my place in line.
Yeah.
Just those thoughtful things make huge differences.
And I think
Be
that's the
about
whole
it.
point of why they made these little tiny Jesuses.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
that's the whole point why they did that, so they can kind of leave them everywhere
A little reminder.
as a little reminder.
That's right.
And you find yourself wanting to do that more. Like I
Yes.
find myself wanting to. I don't remember the last time I got into road rage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
right.
now I'm just like, hey man, just go ahead.
Yeah.
Like,
If this is what it means to you.
Yeah,
by
it's
all
fine.
means.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah.
And I'll
That's
wave
right.
at you with a smile. You know
That's
what I mean?
right. That's that change.
Yeah, and that's what I've noticed a lot within me. A lot within my girlfriend too, and
Yeah.
and it really translates our home life.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, and then same thing with animals. Like if you're having a hard time being kind, get a dog. Okay.
Now you're talking my language.
They will teach you
Yeah.
unconditional love without being able to say one single word.
Man.
It is
Yeah.
so amazing.
Man's
And
best friend.
man's best friend. And I've loved dogs my whole life,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I've always had a dog. And my last dog got me into kind of training them. And then these two that I do right now, I get to train them. But I think one of the best things about it is they force you to go outside. You know what I mean? Especially kind of in today's day.
Of course, everything. Yeah, it's all screens and phones and sight boxes.
Which is great. There's a lot of greatness to it.
You know what's better? Being outside.
Yeah, 100%. And they'll force you to go outside for 30 minutes for a quick walk. You know, and we noticed this a couple weeks ago, or actually a couple months ago, something like that. But what's dog spelled backwards?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Like they're like the most spiritual animal that I can possibly think of. You know what I'm saying? Because they just they truly just give you unconditional love. Like you can walk to the mailbox and you'll go back inside, and they'll treat you like that you've been gone for days.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right. They really teach us how to love.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And as my wife would like to remind me, how to listen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's right. And those are two big behaviors that I've noticed. We have 3 dogs, but my son, we see his dog a lot. So at any given time, there's always 4 dogs in our house at any given moment. They're all hunting awesome. Dogs, and so we train our dogs to bird hunt. And
that's
so
awesome.
It's like that's another podcast in of itself for you and I. Yeah. But yeah, your advice is right. It's like if nature, you just look around the room. We're really built for that, right?
Yeah,
we're built to take care of each other, to look each other, and a good dog will not look at you. He or she will look into your soul.
Oh yeah,
you
could feel it, and you're like, why are you judging me? But it's not.
Yeah,
it was funny because last night, my girlfriend was like, why do you think he's just staring at me? And it's because he's taking you in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't have the screen to watch. He doesn't have anything else to think of. He's not thinking about bills. He's not thinking about, my next career move. Yeah. He's not thinking about, he's looking at you and absorbing you, right? Yeah. They see things so differently. Like, I know you've seen dog videos of them like seeing spirits and them kind of like seeing things that we don't, or even hearing things that we don't.
Another sense of things.
Yeah. They can do that with you.
Yes.
I strongly believe that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when they stare at you, you think that they're judging you, but they are just taking it in. Yeah.
Well, if I'm frustrated about something or I got angry about something, Rocket, that's my GSP.
Yeah.
He just goes and tucks himself away. Like he can feel my frustration.
Oh yeah.
And he can feel that spirit.
Yeah.
Right. Just as much as even if I was to get excited and just make that, you don't even say anything, I just feel excitement.
Yeah.
That, the tail starts to wag.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to kind of maybe even put this all full circle. It's like, is that how we're listening to God?
Exactly.
Are we on the edge of our seat? Are we taking the time? Because sometimes God speaks very loud, with the lightning bolt and from the top of the mountain. Other time he's whispering. He's right there. And that's what's beautiful about prayer, and especially in the morning or in the evening. My favorite time is in the evening and the sun's beginning to set. I always try my best, if I'm not traveling, to get on my front porch and just to sit down in nature, God's nature, and just listen with a level of intention and saying, what is it you want me to see? What is it you want me to hear? And so many times when I put myself in that place, I hear him speak.
And that's beautiful, man. And for me, I would say mine is the morning, right? Because that's when I'm the most, I would say, vulnerable mentally wise, because I'm still waking up from whatever it was I was dreaming about, Yeah. And that's why the first thing we do is we get outside and we walk the dogs. And then while we have some coffee, we don't really talk that much. It's just a walk.
Yeah.
But it's funny because my girlfriend noticed, because I have, so we have this desert area behind our house where we walk the dogs, right?
Yeah.
But I do a lot of off-leash walking, right? But I have the clicker, the buzzard on their neck.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Uh-huh.
So they have really good recall, but if they get a little too far, I could just click the button.
Nick. Yep.
Yeah, it just beeps, right? And then they'll come right back. And it's funny because they get so into like sniffing this bush or chasing this lizard or something like that. But I have to keep them close because there's other people walking their dogs too.
Right.
And we got to be respectful. And they're loose leash also.
Correct.
So it was funny because I was calling them back and they were like super into like this bush for whatever reason. I called them back and Christy goes, do you think that's like how God works, right? Like we're so into something, but he's calling us back.
And our head's just in it.
to protect us, right? So
Yes.
like the dogs don't understand. They're just like, dude, I'm sniffing a bush, right?
Right.
But I see up ahead, there's a pack of coyotes, or I see up ahead,
Right.
there's 2 other off-leash dogs, and I don't want anything,
Yes.
bad to happen.
You're
So
watching out.
I have to call them back, and they got to stay with me
Yeah.
until the coast is clear, and then I'll let them go again. And she pointed that out really well.
Beautiful.
Where I was like, man, I didn't even think about
That's
that.
right.
Like
That's
maybe
the relationship.
maybe that's the way God works. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes you think you're moving really far in one direction, but then
Right.
you get pulled back.
Sure do.
You know,
That's right.
but then you're going to get released again.
That's right.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah, for
right.
him.
If we're doing it the right way.
Exactly.
Well, as we put a
exactly.
bow on this, some big takeaways for me is: are you taking that next step? Are you getting in the car and driving to the gym? Are you taking that next step and maybe praying for the first time in your life, or starting to pray again? So take that next step,
Yeah.
right? Take that action. We started with saying, just don't be listeners of this, but do what it says. So thank you for taking this time with me today, my man.
Yeah,
It's just, we unpacked so much, and I loved every moment of it.
I appreciate it, man. Anytime you want to invite me back, I'm more than happy to come back in, man.
Repeater, you sign me up. Consider
Yeah,
it done.
yeah.
Well, thank you.
Put
Thank
me
you
on
for
the
this
list.
time. Appreciate it.
All right, brother.